Avatar: The Last Airbender debuted on Nickelodeon in 2005 and quickly became one of the most beloved TV shows of all time. Let's break down Aang and his gang's adventures on Raiders of the Lost podcast. Welcome back to the show, everybody. We are doing another episode this week of our anime week, even though Avatar isn't quite anime, it's anime inspired. So I was like, fuck it, it counts. And we're joined again by Jacob Kossler. What's going on, pal?
How's it going?
Now, you got me to watch Avatar: Last Airbender. I aged out before the show even came out, so I was 16 when it debuted, so I was out of interest in animated shows for a while, and I got into movies around that time. So I missed Avatar completely. I had heard about it the last few years, and I knew that it was really liked, but then you convinced me to watch it last year, and I binged it all, I think, in less than 2 weeks, and I found it really fantastic, incredible. The storytelling, the characters, animation, the themes, just a really deep show for a children's show. It had so much more to say than anything else that I had seen on Nickelodeon. So I was so glad I watched it, and I can't wait to see what happens with the live-action adaptation. I'm both curious, but also very skeptical with what Netflix is planning to do. It comes out next week, so we'll see. But when did you first get into Avatar?
When it started releasing, I was right in that age demographic. I was 2005. I was in elementary school, so I was prime demographic for this. And I've watched every episode of this. I've watched every episode of Legend of Korra. I haven't broken into the comics yet, but I've heard that like the comics are also actually really good. So, and they're the actual continuation of the original series. So, like stuff about Zuko's mom, all in there. So I don't know any information about it, but they have some really cool stuff.
Is Aang an adult in that?
Yes.
Wow.
They age him up a little bit. I don't think you get him as like a full adult, but like I think he's like 16 by the time like when they finish it, because I think the comic is like over the next year or two after the events of the series.
He knocked up Katara. I'm just kidding.
Who knows? I mean, they've got what, 4 kids in Korra? I don't even know.
So Legend of Korra is working with the new Avatar in that one.
So Korra is the new Avatar.
Okay, gotcha.
She is from the water. She's from the Southern Water Tribe. So she was very quickly picked up on because Katara's living there. This is taking place, I think, about like 60, 70 years after the events of Avatar: The Last Airbender, because everyone's like pretty old at that point. Like Katara was like 90 something or 80 something. So this is quite a while ahead. Aang has passed away, and so you have the new Avatar, Korra, and she is trained as an airbender by Aang's oldest son, Tenzin.
Oh wow!
And it's a really cool series. Season 1 is a little bit weak. It's got a few. I think they were kind of finding their footing on who these new characters were going to be, but when you get to seasons 2, 3, and 4, it's they really kind of get back to where Avatar was.
Well, the strength of Avatar is the fact that it was only 3 seasons, and there was really no fluff at all. They didn't stretch the story out longer than it had to be, and if they had done another season, I don't think that the storytelling would have been as strong, because every season was so important and vital for what's going forward. And it's hard to even pick a favorite season. I think that season 3 ultimately was my favorite just because of that finale. The last 4 episodes are just like unbelievably epic, but also the first season is just really fantastic, learning more about the lore. And then season 2 with Zuko starting his redemption arc, it's just a great set of layers for each season. And there are a couple of episodes that are kind of like side quests, but still those are a lot of fun, and they don't ever feel like a waste of time. So the writing team really went above and beyond for this.
Absolutely. The writers for Avatar have always just kind of been incredible, and they're like very decisive with the way they write everything. So when they were doing the original series, it was their way or they're the highway. Same thing happened with Legend of Korra. They weren't going to make any more content than they wanted to. So whenever they're writing, it has gone through such a refined process at that point where they don't release anything unless they're sure of it, and it's kind of shown in everything that the original creators have had involvement with. I also think that there's just a really tight show. All the filler episodes still have value in some way. Like you can consider Tales of Bossing Say a filler episode because none of the characters are necessarily like it's not progressing the plot in any specific
It's
manner.
a day in the
Mine is
life.
a day in the life, and it's like individual character moments. And I think that's more it's more world building, but it's not necessarily filler, because it has one of the most remembered moments in the series with Uncle Iroh's section of it. So like even like the most insignificant quote unquote episodes still have meaning in the whole series, and I think that's what makes it so special.
And they connect a lot of great lore and mythology to the show from real ancient cultures and ancient storytelling. Like there's this great Japanese fairy tale about a moon princess. And so when I saw Sokka's first girlfriend becoming the moon, I was like, that's a really great way of connecting actual lore from other cultures into the story of this of Avatar: Last Airbender. So I think that attention to detail, the respect for other cultures, and then trying to weave in real stories from other cultures is a strength of the storytelling by far.
Absolutely. The cultural awareness that the series shows is, I think, one of its strong suits. They designed everything to be around specific cultures. So the air nomads to the Southern Water Tribe to the North, and then Earth Kingdom and the Fire Nation. All of them take direct inspiration from real cultures, and that just accentuates everything. Everything has true meaning and purpose and derivation. It's not just something that was haphazardly added. It all comes from somewhere.
And the cast is great. I mean, the voice acting. Obviously, I don't know many of the actors, but I know Mae Whitman. I know Jason Isaacs. He's a great actor. Obviously, Luke Skywalker as the Fire Lord. So the voice cast is really impressive, and the acting, it was just phenomenal. It blew me away. Even the young actors, the kids, did a great job, and they do an excellent job of making you connect to them, even the villains. And so by the first few episodes, I was hooked. There was a character I wasn't a really big fan of at first, and that was Prince Zuko, because he was like that angsty, troublesome, bitching, whining kid. But then his arc throughout the entire series is definitely one of the most compelling. And by the end of the series, I just loved him. He's now one of my favorite characters. So the actors did a phenomenal job portraying each role.
Absolutely. This is definitely one of like the best voice acting performances I've seen over the course of a project. The child acting, you're right, is so impressive. The Aang and Toph's actors were just phenomenal.
Toph's great.
And they were the exact same age as their characters. So they were 11, 12, 13 filming this series. So just to see just the product that they made with the actors that young as the primary characters is just incredible. And you can definitely tell as the series goes on, their acting gets better still.
And you can hear them aging in their voices.
Exactly. By the time you get to season 3, Toph and Aang do sound older, are immensely more mature in just their characterizations on top of just the vocal performances.
Now, I think that Avatar, from what I've seen, it just seems to be in something that shouldn't be adapted for live action, possibly, because obviously M. Night Shyamalan made what is considered one of the worst movies ever made with just, what was it called? Just The Last Airbender? Was it even called Avatar, maybe? And apparently he called Aang Ong. He called Aang Ong, cast a bunch of white people in the roles, and I've just seen the trailer and a couple of clips, and it looks like he sucked out all the life, all the energy, all the love, and all the humor from the show. It made something super dark and serious. Now, Netflix is coming out with their own adaptation next week. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Rumors have been circulating recently. Now, the actual creators of the original show left Netflix's project from creative differences. Nobody knew what those differences were, but some things are coming to light recently in the past week, and it just looks like a bad sign and red flag going forward. So the first major thing that was released is Sokka won't be sexist at all, which is one of his big flaws in the first half of the series. He becomes a much better person throughout learning lessons, life lessons, being put in this place. And it's a great redemption arc for him. Now, young boys oftentimes will have sexist opinions and thoughts, and they have to grow into adulthood out of adolescence and mature. I think that's a common thing that young boys go through, so that's why they put it in the show, because all young boys deal with that, differences between them and girls. I think that eliminating that from Sokka's storyline is so detrimental to his character development. And now, what is he just going to be, like a great guy, like from the start?
Yeah. So I think the way they worded it was like, oh, it's toned down. The way that even like they worded the description was kind of odd. the way they basically had described it was this entire first arc just won't exist. They've toned down the sexism, and so I don't know, man. That to me, that's just a terrible idea. The whole thing with the Kyoshi Warriors and the reason he gains immense respect for Suki in the Kyoshi Warriors is that there's these women who just kick his ass, and they're non-benders. They're this group of people, like some of the only groups of non-benders who can stand up to benders. And it's a weird just like decision to me creatively. Like you can have a flawed character. People prefer flawed characters who go through an entire arc. One of the things that this series is raved about is Zuko's character arc. And if you just remove those flaws that initially exist, then like what's the point to his character? To me, it just seems like a terrible idea.
That's the point of one of the main aspects of storytelling is showing the evolution of a person, because we all go through changes. We all make mistakes when we're younger, and we all have immense flaws when we're kids. But we learn from those mistakes, and we mature into much better people into adulthood. That's what Sokka does in the show, and he becomes just as vital of a piece as Aang or Katara or any of the other benders in the final confrontation. And it's because of how much he grew as a person and a human being. So I think that taking away flaws from characters and not allowing them to build up from mistakes and weaknesses is a huge mistake when you're trying to build the show and trying to tell a story. So I think that's so dumb. I think the decision is to not be offensive at all, but nobody's offended by Sokka. He's called out on it multiple times, and Katara and all the other girls put him in his place almost every episode. So I think it just makes no sense to me. Another aspect that was revealed is the gang will not be going on any side quests. So in the first couple of seasons, especially, there are multiple episodes that are a lot of fun, where it doesn't really have much to do with the overall plot, but they learn lessons or they interact with new characters. And oftentimes some of those episodes are just really fun, entertaining, and still their own great little stories. Netflix said the story for the live action adaptation is just going to be like, we got to get to the North Pole. And that's what we're doing. And there's really nothing outside of that. And I think that's also a mistake, because some of those episodes, they let you connect with the characters. They let you feel that more world building and seeing more of what's happening, and taking that away and doing a much more straightforward trajectory for the plot is, I think, another mistake.
Absolutely. I think this part actually also removes another character arc, and that's for Aang. When Aang first is freed, he still doesn't want to be Avatar. The whole reason he left the temple and why he got frozen is because he didn't want to be the Avatar. And so for him to then okay, yeah, we need to go to the Water Tribe so I can be the Avatar, makes no sense. The first half of the season, or the majority of it, is Aang doing everything in his power to avoid being the Avatar, but everywhere he goes to try and have his adventures, he sees the reach of the Fire Nation. He sees what's happened from his absence. Why it's his responsibility to learn all the elements. He is losing this first major arc that is the initial step of him going from a child to becoming the Avatar. And to remove this removes like Aang's first major character arc, which I don't understand how they're supposed to go about this story without like doing that. Like, this is the fact that he doesn't want to be an Avatar. The Avatar is like such a major driving force for the first season.
Yeah, one of the great aspects to his character is he just wants to be a kid. He just wants to be Aang. He just wants to be another kid. And that's his arc for much of the first season. Not so much avoiding, but just trying to escape from his responsibilities and his calling, because he's just a boy, and he shouldn't have to fight to save the world. It wasn't fair that he was chosen. He didn't make the choice. It was his destiny. And part of his the major part of his arc is just accepting that destiny.
Based off of these changes. Okay, sorry, you were lagging for a sec for me. It kind of feels like this is budget cutting with these changes, because if they by having if they don't cover these character arcs, it allows them to speed up certain episodes, or certain, I guess, just mini arcs that make up the whole season. my assumption is that this is going to be, if these turn out to be as sweeping in scale as as it's being portrayed, this is for budget cutting, just to make it cheaper for them to make the season.
Less locations, less CGI, less actors. Yeah,
exactly. And you spend less time filming because you don't have as much to cover, because you'd probably need more episodes, because even though Avatar is a very tight series, a lot of series would have probably done a lot more episodes, given just the sheer scale of the whole television show.
Yeah, I agree. So another aspect that I've seen is that there's been a lot of footage of the Fire Lord, photos and footage of him. Now, his presence is known, but you never see his face until the third season, until the end of the second season.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand they're trying to get the main antagonist involved, but the mystery surrounding the Fire Lord is one of the most powerful aspects to the first two seasons of who is this guy? We just hear about him. They build up this major villain, so then when he's finally revealed, the hype is immense, and he does live up to the hype. But I loved how we never saw his face until late in the series. They're going to be showing him right off the bat, I believe. I can already imagine how they're probably, and they're also getting Azula involved early in this first season as well. So those are two characters where they slowly revealed them, and I think those are strengths to the series. Of you have these huge main antagonists, but they didn't show them right off the bat, and I thought that was so fantastic. I'm not sure how I'll feel about seeing the Fire Lord so early on.
Yeah, I didn't really find like these changes to help the story at all. It almost feels like they're just trying to get through season 1 as soon as possible, so they can get to season 2. Because what's his name? Daniel Day Kim is who's playing Fire Lord Ozai, I believe,
From Lost.
And yeah, he's such a huge face and name. Like it almost feels like they're just, okay, we know we're gonna lose money on this project, so we need to get to the point to where we can start making money. So we need to just get past season 1, where it's the build up, and get to season 2, where we can focus more on these characters who are played by these big famous actors who we can use to promote. Yeah, I'm not a fan of these changes. It really feels like they're just kind of skipping the journey and trying just to get to the finale for these changes. But
it's funny because if they do it the right way, people will love it.
Absolutely, they can, and I understand that when you make an adaptation, there's changes are going to be made because you're adapting it. You're not, if you want to watch it one for one, go watch the original, right? So especially as it's aged incredibly well. So the idea of them just making such significant changes is just a little bit worrying, where they can still pull it off, but it's just, these are such core parts of the original series. I just don't understand how they're going to make those changes and still capture the essence of the original.
Yeah, we'll see going forward. I'm going to watch the first episode, but I'm going to that's going to be my make or break, really. I'm just going to give that first episode a watch and be like, okay, what are they going for? What's the tone? What's the approach? And then if I don't like it, I'm not going to watch the series. So I'm just going to see that first episode and make my decision. But I just hope that they can capture the essence of the original show, and something that obviously was lacking from Shyamalan's adaptation, and you can't quite see it in these trailers and footages, is Aang is really just like such a delight as a lead character. He's hilarious, he's fun, he's cute, he's silly, he's goofy, because he is just a kid. And he's put in a serious situation. And one of Aang's great qualities is his arc of accepting his duties, accepting his responsibility, but also doing it his way. Like, for example, not wanting to kill the Fire Lord in the end. And he figures out a way to achieve his goal without killing the Fire Lord by taking away his bending powers. So Aang is an incredible character, and I hope that they can try to put that into the live-action series. We'll see going forward.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what they do, because they have a really good cast, and Netflix has made plenty of good series before. So, and the One Piece live action was incredible. I haven't looked much into the production, so I don't know how much overlap there is between people, like maybe writers or just any staff between the two sets. But if there's any overlap between One Piece and this, there's maybe some hope, because the One Piece live action was incredible. So it's possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I read that the One Piece creator was heavily involved in the adaptation.
He was very heavily involved. Basically every single episode, every single shot was shown to him before they released it, and they wouldn't call the project finished until he okayed everything. So every single scene in that show was okayed by the creator, and he was also there for some of it. So anything he wasn't there for, it's still.
I wonder why they weren't like that with. I wonder why they weren't like that with the Avatar adaptation with the creators of that.
So the creators were involved with the original creation of this, and then due to creative differences, they left and formed their own Avatar studios with Nickelodeon. They went to Paramount, and I don't know what they told Paramount, but Paramount's like, yeah, do what you want. So they straight up made Avatar Studios. It's a new production company, and they only make projects for Avatar, and it's run by the two guys who made Avatar originally, because they worked on this live action project, and because of some creative differences, which I think we're starting to hear about, they left it, and they went to go do their own project. So we have a Avatar Kyoshi movie on the way. I think we've got 2 Avatar movies for like different avatars we haven't met yet.
Oh wow.
There's rumors of I believe there's like a movie or it's or a series continuation of the original of the Avatar gang in their 20s.
Is this going to be live action?
It's going to be animated.
Oh cool.
So they're going to it should be with the exact same studio and team. So they should work with Studio Mirror again, like they did with Avatar and Korra. So it should still be the great animation we've been seeing. So that's kind of where my hesitance with the series also comes from, the creators not even being involved anymore.
I mean, good for them. Kudos to them for being like sticking to their guns and not being like, let's just sell out and Netflix is paying us all this money. They're like,
exactly.
they care about their baby. They care about the story. And if it's not right, they don't want to be involved. So I think that's fantastic that they're like, let's just take our names off of it. We're not involved. So
yeah, they just said, take our names off of it. We're not involved anymore. We're going to go do our own thing.
Good for them.
And since they just licensed out the live action, like they can still go and make their own Avatar stuff, which is really cool.
And I mean, if Netflix is committed to TV, so then they do have the opportunity to make live action films for a theatrical release. So we'll see. That'll be pretty sick. All right, let's get into a couple of rankings. So obviously, like Attack on Titan, it's hard to talk about 64 episodes. So we have a bunch of rankings and lists. So I'd like to start off with a character ranking of the top 15 characters. The main cast is really a handful of people. It's like eight or 9 people, but there's still a bunch of great side characters. But first, before we get into the actual people, we got to mention Momo and Appa, who are always a delight. And now I grew up watching the film The Neverending Story. I'm not sure if you've ever seen that film, but
when I was really young.
But Atreyu flies on this he's like a dragon dog covered in white fur, and it was just like always such an incredible thing. And then whenever I see Appa, I'm like, oh my god, it's just like Neverending Story with this flying water bison, and he's so cute, he's so powerful. One of the best episodes is his seeing what happened when he was captured. Like that was like a tearjerker, seeing what he went through. So I really adore Appa.
That got me emotional.
It was called
as a little kid, I got really upset at that one.
Yeah, it was tough to see like him being abused and captured and confined, and oh my god, like that Appa episode was just heartbreaking. And I was so happy when they were they were finally reunited, him and Aang. I was so happy. But Appa's part is just he's connected at the hip with Aang, basically. He's there from the start. He's vital to the story, and he always brings so much charm to the show. I love Appa.
Absolutely. Appa, I mean, I think he's like one of the most underrated characters in the series, because you kind of forget that like they couldn't have done anything they did without Appa. Yeah. His ability to fly is the only reason they ever even like accomplished this.
Absolutely. Like, imagine if they had to walk it Lord of the Rings style, wouldn't have gotten there in time. The comet would have hit like before way before they got there. And then Momo, another.
By the time they got to the Earth Kingdom, Sozin's comet would have already been there.
Yeah.
It
would have been destroyed. It would have been ashes.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Momo, the other animal companion, is super cute, and they discover him in episode 2 or 3 when they visit the Eastern Air Temple, when Aang learns that there's no airbenders left, and Momo is there, and he's just super cute as well. I have him on my set somewhere. I don't know where he is right now.
I don't know. I don't see him. But yeah, no, Momo is just a funny, great comic relief, little lemur to have around. I also love Momo. He's just a little goofball, just always causing problems. And so him and Appa kind of just like check off like the funny pet character that will be in a lot of cartoons. And I think that Momo probably has a little bit less impact on the series, but he's almost like a mascot.
He's the Sokka of the animals.
Yeah, basically. The episode where is it with Sokka? It's not when he drinks the cactus juice, but it's a different episode where he imagines Momo and Appa talking, and Appa's like a samurai, fully kitted out, and Momo's like a Ronin. He's got the little like tweed grass sticking out of his mouth, and they like go into a full fight. And I'm like, this is hysterical. It's my favorite like moment between them. Yeah. It's so funny.
Oh my god, I love them. All right, let's get into ranking of the humans. So first up, we got Princess Yu from the Water Tribe, who sacrifices herself when the moon is killed to become the new moon. And it's a really sad story. She's just a wonderful character. Sokka's head over heels in love with her, obviously, his first girlfriend. My first girlfriend turned into the moon. That's rough, man.
I was like on the tip of my tongue. I was like, I'm waiting for him to stop talking so I can say it.
Best line of the show by far.
For real. That's rough, buddy.
She's only in a couple episodes, but the impact is really felt, and it's an important moment of the series. And then whenever you do see the moon, you think of her.
Yeah. That's I didn't like really realize how much the series shows the moon off afterwards.
Yeah.
It's actually a lot more frequent. I think as kids, you might fade a little bit. Like as an adult, you're rewatching and you're like, damn, this is sad.
Yeah.
You're like, she's like probably 16, 17. So like, that's just like she's the rest of her life. She's going to be watching Sokka.
Kiss Suki.
And Suki. But Yue is such a cool character. I think she's very unique, and she's like the first time we actually, besides like Monkey Atsu, the first time we've really, or the Western Air Temple in general, first time we've really seen like a character die in the show. So this is, for it to be a teenager sacrificing herself for balance and for nature is so interesting to see. She's kind of, there's a lot of theories that I honestly really like, is that the idea of Aang, given, let's say Aang doesn't get frozen, he lives out his normal lifetime 100 years before, there's a lot of theories that Yue was supposed to be the next Avatar. That's why she had a strong connection with the koi fish spirits, and that's why she was sick at birth, because she was supposed to have the Avatar spirit, but she doesn't because Aang's still alive.
Oh, I like that theory.
And so there's a lot of theories that because it's in the cycle, the next person's a Water Tribe member, and so the whole, everyone, it was cooked up this theory that Yue would have been the next Avatar had Aang not been frozen.
That works out timing wise, because he would have been like 70 by the time she was born.
I think it was like 100 years. So he would have been
like 80. He would have been like 83 when she was born.
Yeah, he'd probably would be like with probably passed away within the last like probably 20 years of the events. Which I don't know if they ever actually tell us how long. Like there's a gap between Avatar dying and the next Avatar being born. So who knows?
But there's the Moon Princess Japanese tale. It has a lot of similar themes it's about this couple in Japan, and they lose their daughter, and then the mother is just beyond herself with grief. So then the father climbs up a mountain and begs the moon for help, and the moon sends her daughter to the family, a little baby girl, to comfort and console the family. And so then the family raises the little girl, the Moon Princess, as their own. But then when she becomes an adult, she has to leave in order to join the moon again. It's a very, very incredible tale. And I remember seeing this episode and being like, that's such a great reference and homage to that story.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right, next up.
It's really cool how they like weave ancient stories into. Yeah.
It's fantastic. All right, at number 14, we have Jet, who ends up becoming a really good villain against Zuko. First, he's with the band of bandits in the forest, and he's kind of like a friend-ish to the gang. but he's very like selfish. He seems to be trouble, and he seems to be someone they can't control in any way, and it's risky to be around him. And then he ends up becoming basically a full-on villain, and he has a great fight with Zuko. And I like the fight because it's swords and there's no bending.
Mm-hmm. He kind of reminds me of Eren Yeager, to be honest.
Yeah, he is an Eren quality to him.
It's pretty much one for one. Yeah. Jet's. I think Jet's such an interesting character. Because everyone has suffered at the hands of the Fire Nation, but you don't really like. Generally speaking, the average person they run into is generally a good person. But Jet's like one of the few characters who like. Who was wronged by the Fire Nation and is now turned into a villain character and is attacking people who are just civilians and don't have anything to do with the necessarily the Fire Nation's imperial efforts, and might just because I know there was a Fire Nation village and that they were trying to destroy, and he's just one of the few characters who went down that kind of path. So it's interesting for them to acknowledge the different paths someone can take after suffering like he did, and how the rest of these characters have. So we get to he's one of the few paths we see different characters take after being victims of the Fire Nation, because you have the Earthbenders who get put onto that ship in the ocean and have just given up. So this is a path of just someone who is fully accepted the hatred and has decided to return it to the Fire Nation rather than accept it or make a difference in some other way. I think it's so fascinating that this is a character who is really early on in the series too, and he's just like, no, we're gonna kill these people, we're gonna blow up this dam and drown them all.
The whole dam sequence is great because that first when we meet him in his little crew, we think, oh, they're just like a bunch of kids who are just doing what they can to survive. You know, they're stealing and they're just trying to survive because in the ruins of their home. But then we learn like this guy will do anything. And he can be ruthless, and he becomes a really big antagonist for both the gang and for Zuko, which I thought was great, connecting him to all of the characters. But that whole damn sequence of him nearly allowing all that to happen and trying to foil the plans of the gang was really fantastic, especially in the first season.
Yeah, I thought this him as like a sort of like an early foil to Aang, where like they both suffered great tragedy at the hand of the Fire Nation. This and Jet is an example of the path Aang could take as the Avatar, of making it about revenge. And after that whole, I think that's what sort of really helps push Aang to reaffirm his air nomad ideals of peace and nonviolence whenever possible.
Yeah, it's a great lesson. I wonder if he's even going to be in live action, because that's an important lesson Aang learns.
Yeah, that's a good question. With the changes, who knows?
We'll see. I'll have to check the IMDb list. All right, next up we have Suki. Great warrior, really entertaining. I love their village. I love everything about that crew. And this is where Sokka is really learning lessons about, just because these people are women doesn't mean they can't be great warriors. And way better than him at everything. So he learns a lot in this episode especially. Yeah. But then Suki, she doesn't have that much screen time in the series, but she does show up multiple times throughout the course of the show, and she's always a welcome presence in every episode.
Yeah, I honestly, I probably might have put her higher up, but I know she kind of goes AWOL for a while. But her impact on the series is so huge because she completely turned Sokka's character around from probably not being like super liked by the audience to like, once he starts learning these lessons, he really comes into like being an audience favorite, where he's just this comic relief character who actually goes through a character arc, which isn't super common in a lot of series. If you're a comic relief character, they're usually very static, or they're used for tragedy for the rest of the cast. But he manages to like be one of the few comic relief characters with an arc where he truly grows as a person. And I think Suki is also such an interesting character in the way that showing how important the Avatar is, the effects they have on people, and the whole Kyoshi warriors were formed I think it's by or inspiration of Avatar Kyoshi. I don't remember if they were formed while she was still alive or not. It's been a minute since I've watched the first season, but the just the lasting impact of the Avatar. She shows what that means, and so Aang sees that for the first time. He meets all these people who were part of the home of an Avatar of the last. I think Kyoshi's is. I don't remember if Kyoshi's Earth or Air. I think she's an Airbender. The last Airbending Avatar, and so Aang himself already means so much more by being an Airbender to them, and so I think Suki is a really cool character to show the meaning of the Avatar and what effects that has hundreds of years later. Is how important it is for you to fill out your role, as these people are inspired hundreds of years later to keep that legacy going.
Wow. Well said. Well said.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Ty Lee, who is part of Azula's gang, her trio. Ty Lee is a great contrasting character because her personality is so bubbly and so sweet and cutesy, but she's a force to be reckoned with. And what's also great about her, she's not a bender, but she has a fighting style and technique where she can shut off the chi of a person's energy to prevent them from bending. And so she becomes a really great an antagonist in a fight. And I just love the precision. I love the fact that just a normal person can have an insurmountable impact in a battle sequence against benders. And I think just the contrasting of her really bubbly personality is a great character design.
Yeah, I love how she's like the strongest non-bender, I think, pretty handily in the series. And in a one-on-one between her and a bender, I think I'd take her minus like the Avatar and like the top
minus
like,
a few masters. Yeah,
minus like a few masters of bending. She's like one of the most powerful is probably not the right word to use. One of the strongest characters, and I think that she's such a breath of fresh air. I think in her whole group. So with Azula, Mai, Zuko. She's like the
you need someone who could smile in that group.
They're all fairly like someone who can crack a smile and mean it genuinely.
Because even Mai is just like a goth girl.
Yeah, they like the rest of their group reminds me. I don't know if you ever watched. Have you ever watched Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy on Cartoon Network, like early 2000s?
I know of it, but I don't think I ever watched it.
They're Mandy, one of the titular characters, literally cannot smile. There's a whole episode or like / movie where when they make her smile, it breaks the universe. Literally, like the universe, it like that ends the episode. Is she smiles and there's just a giant explosion, which I think is like this whole cast. Uh-huh. If any one of them smiles willingly, it's gonna the universe is gonna fall in on itself. But yeah, Ty Lee is such a breath of fresh air in those scenes to where she keeps the energy up when the rest of the characters are like a lot more mellow.
With the Fire Nation early in the show, we're shown that it has this perspective of them being a cruel people, all of them. But then with Ty Lee, and then when the kids all blend in with the Fire Nation, we learn that they're just normal people too, but they've just been taken advantage of by a powerful government and leadership. They're just people. And so I think that Ty Lee is an important character because she makes us learn that the Fire Nation isn't just all evil people.
Yeah.
Like Azula, like the Fire Lord, like Zhao, Iroh as well. Zuko, cruel and evil for a season. So I think Ty Lee was really vital to make the audience understand that there are good people in the Fire Nation as well.
Yeah. It shows how the Fire Nation is sort of just victims of the will of the Fire Lord. And they're just shown propaganda. They are being told they're good guys. They're not under the impression they're imperialists who are taking over countries. They're not aware. Most of them aren't aware of that. They just think that this is just expansion or some sort of collaboration with these other nations. So she kind of gives us that, like you said, that perspective into the average person who isn't part of the military, who doesn't actually see what's going on. They just see kind of the results of it. So which
100%
is showing how like they're innocent and a lot of this. And when we get to the end of the series, she turns on Azula and joins the Kyoshi warriors. She a lot of these Fire Nation people that they show at the end aren't willingly part of this. A lot of these Fire Nation members who find out what's actually happening switch sides.
Absolutely. All right, next up we have Admiral Zhao, who's for the most part in the first half of the show the most powerful political figure that we're seeing, and a point of contention between Iroh and Zuko. He's basically the commanding officer for the Fire Nation for much of what we see in the first half, and there's a really fantastic confrontation between him and Zuko, where Zuko actually outduels him, and it's a great moment, one of my favorite fights in the entire show. But Zhao is someone who, even though he's on the Fire Nation side, he's still an antagonist for Zuko and Iroh.
Yeah, Admiral Zhao is just like, I think they're a stepping stone to like what the Fire Lord is, where they're both just classic villains down to their core, just not good people. But I think Zhao is so interesting, and the fact is, a lot of that's a facade. He is a powerful firebender to some extent, but when it's shown he's backed into a corner, so when Zuko beats him in that Agni Kai, the Zhao like was ready to do anything dirty to win before Iroh steps in. He's like, yeah, this is over. Zhao is a very interesting character where he's just, that's a lot of that's a facade, and he's a lot weaker of a man, as they show in that moment. And then later on when he dies, when Aang, he kills the koi fish spirit. So he wants to win so bad, he doesn't care if it disrupts the balance of the world, because he can't accept losing. 100%. So he kills a koi fish spirit, and then just gets just easily take it. I think it's honestly hilarious how easily he's taken out. Where this dude who thinks so much of himself and how he's even better than the prince and the brother of the king, just sucked into the water, never see him again.
Mm-hmm. It's great. He's a great first main villain for the first season. He's fantastic. All right, next up we have a character. We have a character at number 10 who's not in the show much at all, but man, when he is on screen, it's just a delight. It's King Boomy. And he's so funny. He's so ridiculous, but also he teaches Aang important lessons, especially in their first episode together. And he's just fucking absolutely bonkers, super shredded, and he's just like so fun.
He's also like 115. I think he's like only like a year or two younger than Aang when they were kids. So he's like 112 or something like that.
It's crazy.
So he's doing that at that age. But yeah, Boomy is just one of the funniest characters in the show. It's every scene he's in, I'm laughing. Mm-hmm. I still think about this as one of the, I don't know why, I think maybe it's the delivery of it or just the way they set it up. But when Team Avatar meets up with the White Lotus right before Sozin's Comet, and Aang is still missing on the lion turtle, they show up and Boomy's like, wait a minute, there's someone missing, someone very important. Where's Momo? I don't know why, that shit gets me every single time I've rewatched it.
Where's Momo?
Where's Momo? Because I forgot Momo was with Aang as well. He's like, oh, he's with Aang. They're like, he's with Aang, we can't find him. He's like, oh, they're together, they'll be fine. And just moves on.
Great.
Oh my god, he's such a funny character, and he's also he's also one of those characters who has a facade of like goofy in whatever, like that is, while it is still partly who he is, he like is secretly like very intelligent and conniving, and is planning stuff out way ahead of time. So he knew who Aang was when he shows up, obviously, because but he knows that at his role in things immediately, he needs to show Aang that he needs to take things seriously, and that if he also challenges the Fire Nation too soon, it puts all of Omashu in danger. So he waits for the perfect moment to break out, to free himself, and then take down this entire Fire Nation army. It's like no one told him about the eclipse, but because he's part of the White Lotus, he knows about it. And so I think him secretly being part of the White Lotus is probably the biggest surprise, just because of how crazy he is compared to all the other master characters we meet. So, but absolutely. So he's just, it's so interesting how intelligent and powerful he is, given how insanely goofy he is at the same time.
And he was the first major example we saw of earthbending.
Yeah, he's also the most powerful earthbender we've seen at that point. I think Toph in the end is more powerful, but like at least throughout that series, he is by far the most powerful earthbender we see.
She'll surpass him, but
entire
like
city and just goes.
Yeah.
yeah, but when Toph's an adult, I'm sure she'll
Yeah.
pass him because she can now metal bend and see with her feet. But yeah, I think Boomy's like is just so cool as the most powerful. Where we see like the biggest feats of earthbending, where he slides like entire statues. That's like. Who even knows how big that statue of the Fire Lord was that he like slides down the side of the city to break the bridge.
It's
huge.
like Magneto doing something fucking insane.
It's like Magneto picked up the Statue of Liberty or something like that. It's crazy stuff that he does. It's so cool.
Yeah, I love him. All right, next up at number 9 we have May, who is part of Azula's team, and I love the first interactions with them in the gang because we see even though Azula has a couple of friends who aren't benders, they are really nasty in a fight. And May is extremely talented. She ends up becoming Zuko's girlfriend. She's like so much like him. They're like a perfect match. And ultimately, she has a great character arc. She kind of has this nihilistic, apathetic personality, not really caring about anything and just going along with what Azula says. But I think she hides a lot of depth and emotion on this facade of blankness. And eventually it leads to the Boiling Rock episode where she betrays Azula and leaves Azula and with Ty Lee and joining up with Zuko and the gang. And she says, "I love Zuko more than I fear you," which is a huge moment for the show and for May.
Yeah, I think she's also such a cool character. Her relationship with Zuko is so well done. I really like what they did to where they at first kind of almost comes across as like another member of the Fire Nation who's kind of doesn't care, is cruel, whatever. But having seen her, like meeting her family, because I believe her family it becomes like her dad's the governor of Omashu after the Fire Nation take over, if I remember correctly. And we get to see her family. She's got a little brother. Since her family's part of the government, she actually got to see what the Fire Nation was like growing up. And so I think she's one of the few characters who's already disillusioned with the Fire Nation and sort of just goes with the flow of things, at least for that time, because there's just what can she do? But you can tell she's very aware of the reality of the Fire Nation, and that comes across. And I think that's why she also finds herself attracted to Zuko, is because Zuko has also now seen these things. He's been part of those things. And so Zuko's one of the few people who are actually like also verbalizing his displeasure with the Fire Nation. And just their similar personalities on top of that, it's like how they really connect is both of them can kind of see through the facade that the rest of the Fire Nation tries to put up.
100%. All right, next up we have Toph, the protege, the blind bandit, one of the most powerful earthbenders in existence, even though she's just a little kid. I think that Toph was so exciting. I'm glad they saved her for season 2, because it would have been a little too much of an ensemble in the first season with that arc. But she is so welcome, and she ends up being Aang's instructor in earthbending. But I love her first sequence in the arena, battling the other earthbenders, and she's a blind kid, yet she takes out all of these incredibly powerful earthbenders like they're nothing. And I also like the backstory with her parents, very controlling, very protective of her, even though she's a rebellious kid who just wants to fight, of all things, based upon how she was raised, and eventually running off with the gang to help train the Avatar. I love Toph. She's always so funny. She's next to Sokka, another comedic relief, but also of vital importance to every battle. She is an MVP in many sequences. She's just a delight on screen.
Absolutely. Toph is like usually the most badass member of Team Avatar. The scene where I think it's during Sozin's comment where she busts through the metal door and turns into like a body of armor, and that takes out I was like, might be the coolest thing I've seen in the show so far. That was so sick. But yeah, she's such a cool character, and I love the depth to her, because at first we think like they try and like give her this characterization of this cool character who doesn't care, but there's so many layers and depth to her where she does care about her parents, and despite as much as she verbalizes wanting to be part of the Team Avatar and wanting to teach Aang earthbending, at the same time she doesn't want to leave her family, and I think it's it's so interesting how she has these two identities she's developed from with her family, and then what you could call her true self as an earthbender. I think it's just so cool. There's that depth there that especially for a character who's so young, because I believe she's 10 and she's like 10 or 11. She's like a year or two younger than Aang, and for her to have that much just character to explore is I think makes her just one of the most interesting characters in the series for someone you'd think to be pretty surface level, to be just as interesting as she is. And also the comic relief stuff is always just great in there. Just every like it's she's not a caricature like Sokka is, but she still manages to like be consistently funny. I don't really know how I would describe her character.
She's sarcastic in a ball buster.
Yeah,
is what she is.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good way to put it.
Whereas Sokka's like a laughing point, someone you laugh at.
He's more of the butt of the joke rather than
I mean, one of the best I think one of the best like side episodes is her training him. Like her training Aang, that episode is it's a really fun episode. And it's it's an episode of like levity.
Oh yeah, that's the one where Sokka gets like stuck in the ground, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that one.
The I don't even remember what animal it was. It's like the platypus bear shows up or something like that.
But it also shows that like even though Aang's the Avatar, he really does need to learn and work at all of the bending. Like he actually it's great to see how difficult it is for him to earthbend at first. I think it's important to show that. I think it's interesting how similar her and Aang are, but also how vastly different. Mm-hmm. Where at first the way they introduce the character, you're like, oh, Aang's she's perfect for Aang. She's another kid. She's very fun loving. This is gonna be easy for Aang. But earthbending turns out to be Aang's hardest thing. The earth is the exact opposite of air. In this universe, so it's the exact type of personality you need to bend. So the fact that someone who we expect to be really easy for Aang to connect and relate to ends up being his hardest teacher, who we struggle teaching him what he struggles with the most. So it's really interesting to see how similar and dissimilar those two characters are. Oh yeah, 100%. All right, number 7, we have Fire Lord Ozai, who is the overall nemesis and antagonist of the show. Ozai is fantastic. Like we said earlier, they saved him, and they waited a long time before they finally revealed him, because up until then, what makes a great villain like this is people talk about him. You hear stories, you hear people mentioning him, you hear the fear, and then it just builds this anticipation, and it builds this hype to finally see this character. And then when you do, he does not disappoint, and he is fiercely powerful. The final battle between him and Aang is absolutely epic and unbelievable. But on top of that, he's an incredible villain. He's someone who's basically taken control of his country, and his plan is to destroy any villains. And when the show starts, he's already wiped out all of the Airbenders. So he's already committed genocide. So we know how far he's willing to go to do what he wants, and he's so brutal. Amazing voice acting by fucking Mark Hamill. Sorry, Mark Hamill. And it's just he's an amazing presence on screen whenever he showed up.
Yeah, Ozai is just a cool final villain. The way that he's impacted every character, where like this is the one of the best, I guess, final villains in general, where it's just a pure evil character. Like we need to beat them. Every single character has suffered at his hand in some major way, and I love how because of how evil he is, the final conflict of the series isn't beating him. We know Aang can do it. If he's powerful enough, he knows all the elements, he can defeat anyone. It's that, how does Aang do that without killing him? Because that's, despite everything that the Fire Nation has done, if he kills the Ozai, it's either that's something the Avatar shouldn't do, or the Fire Nation probably wouldn't, like if Aang killed the Fire Nation, I don't think it would have been a peaceful resolution like we saw. So the fact that a villain like this can force such a strong conflict within the characters on a kid show is just so impressive. The way that they were able to write a character in such a way to where kids can really understand the dilemma. Because I think that a lot of the audience, or their intended audience, this is probably the first time they're being introduced to these kind of themes. And so for them to deliver them in such a way through this character is incredible. And also doing it with Mark Hamill's performance probably helps a little bit. Who's kind of, I think this solidified him as like one of the greatest voice actors of all time.
To do Joker and then him.
He did Joker, he did Firelord Ozai, and then he's also done like a handful of other stuff. He's Skeletor now in like the Netflix He-Man show, which I'm like, when they announced that, I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. Mark Hamill and Skeletor kind of go together. But yeah, I think Mark Hamill is so important to this role. If you cast a different actor, I'm not sure if the character still works as well.
Agreed, yeah.
His voice is so distinct with this. This is one of the ones to where the Daniel Day Kim's going to have to act his ass off to really
He's gonna have to bring
his character down. He's one of those characters who's like they had to nail down perfectly, and they did. Mm-hmm. I've literally zero complaints about Ozai.
All right, next up at number 6 we have Sokka. Formerly just the comedic relief of the trio, he becomes a very important character and vital to the defeat of the Fire Nation at the very end. Like we said earlier in the episode, he goes through immense transformation from a sexist, weak, kind of bullying guy into a mature young man, someone who's willing to sacrifice himself, someone who puts his life on the line, and someone who learns how to respect others. And a really great arc for both him and Katara is finally seeing their dad again and being torn between his father and being with Aang. And so that's a great arc for Sokka, those few episodes. And he goes through, compared to many others in the cast, some of the most intense transformation in terms of an arc out of anyone in the show.
Yeah. Sokka, I mean, for me, he's my favorite character in the show. Maybe not necessarily the best character, but it's just he's hysterical. He's constantly wrong and is constantly proven wrong, and yet it's so great to see how his character evolves throughout the series, where he's super sexist. He thinks men have to take care of everything because the Southern Water Tribe the Water Tribe in general is very traditionalist. The women have specific roles and men have specific roles. Like as they explore when they get to Northern Water Tribe, and Master Paku, or I think it's Paku, won't train Katara at all, even though Katara has the most potential of any waterbender we see in the series. And so the way we see Sokka, because Sokka also witnesses this, and his views are constantly challenged, and he grows from that, and becomes a better and better person and a more and more mature person. By the end of the series, he really is the older brother figure he thought he was at the beginning. He has matured so much as a character, like when he Master Pandao, where he does the sword fight with him.
Love that.
And he's like, I have to tell you the truth. I'm not a Fire Nation member. I'm from the Southern Water Tribe, and it's you get to, I think that's the moment where I really kind of realized how much Sokka had changed, was when even though it would put all their lives in danger, at least as much as they could assume, he still couldn't, like, just his own honor and his respect for people has grown so much that he's like, I can't reasonably learn from this master or try and take from him without letting him know the truth. I have to respect him, and I think that's like one of his big things is learning to respect others. Is a kind of arc that's like probably not as talked about, but it's literally everyone, not just as him being sexist in the beginning, and it's even at the end. Even though he's not a bender, he still manages to contribute in major ways. And he's one of my favorite characters. I think he's just hysterical every scene he's in. How he just constantly gets proven wrong. I love him.
He's stubborn as hell, but he took out that air fleet like a boss, like a G.
Yeah, and he even was willing to say goodbye to Boomerang.
Yeah, That's right.
I'm like, oh, that's the ultimate character arc.
Sparky, Sparky, Bang, Bang, man.
Yeah, Sparky, Boom Man.
Boom, man. Oh, Combustion Man. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Coming up with the names for the guy. It's so funny.
for real.
All right, number 5 for our character ranking is Azula, one of the main antagonists for the series. She is the daughter of the Fire Lord and brother of Prince Zuko. She doesn't show up until season 2, but when she does show up, she makes her presence known very clearly. She's more powerful, more dominating, and more ruthless than Zuko. In a lot of ways, I think she represents the qualities that Zuko thinks he should have, being the Fire Lord's son, but he doesn't actually have them, which makes him a morally good character compared to his sister. His sister basically is like the perfect child for Lord Ozai. And she also is not only one of the most powerful firebenders, but she's also mastered lightning bending as well, which is just so fantastic when you see that for the first time. It's unbelievable. She's an incredible antagonist. She's the biggest foil for Aang and the team for much of the series. And then her finale against Katara and Zuko is one of the best battles by far in the entire show. Visually stunning. But she's a character who has great moments, but then she does become quite deranged and loses herself near the end of the season, near the end of the show, where I think that when she realizes things aren't going her way, she can't deal with it when she's betrayed by her friends, when when they have their backs up against the wall, she basically loses control, cuts her bangs, acts like a madman.
Yeah.
And then that's when she's most dangerous too, also.
Yeah, I see her as a really tragic character. I think she's the product of Ozai's attention, because Zuko never really got that, and that's I mean, as you can tell from the beginning, and when they initially show him the first time he's in the war room and he speaks out, and then they have the Agni Kai, Zuko very clearly wants the approval of his father. He never really got the attention. He was always got the attention from his mother, who is a good person, and that shows with these characters. Azula is really just the product of the undivided attention of Ozai. This is what happens when this was what would happen to Zuko if he had gotten that. And she's just so mentally unstable because she is now lives and dies by the approval of Ozai, and has built this complex around Zuko and her mother not loving her, and believe that her mother only loves Zuko. And so when their mother's gone, as much as she like doesn't initially like kind of treat Zuko poorly or like go out of her way to like attack him or anything like that, everything she does is always kind of a slight towards him, and is always like condescending towards him. She has to find ways to demean him and to make herself feel better, because she has no other way to I guess process her childhood is by being better than Zuko is the only way she can do that. And so the finale of the series where they fight and Zuko bests her, she just can't fathom that, and she starts breaking down, crying as she's chained up, and even then she's cutting her hair and like has like lost it as she's become the Fire Lord. But this is truly like, that's where you can see the cracks really start to fall. She sees her mother in the mirror, and she verbalizes it. She believes her mother hated her. She believes her mother thought she was a monster, and that was just the image that she painted for herself based off of her childhood, that her father was the only one who was giving her attention. Her father preferred her over Zuko because she had that to some extent that voraciousness you need to be the Fire Lord. So it's just a really interesting character who is just a victim of their childhood, in my opinion.
Because even before major events, you see flashbacks, and she was always manipulating her brother, or like you said, competing to win favor of her father. And even when they both think that she killed Aang, she tells her father that Zuko killed Aang on the chance that he survived, so she wouldn't get blamed for it.
Exactly.
So she's always competing against Zuko and trying to win her father's favor. She does have that tragic moment near the end, but I will say she enjoys what she does too much to be completely empathizable. She's just
Yes.
she relishes in her cruelty too much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's really like I said, like she has all the qualities that Zuko thinks he should have: the cruelty, the villainous aspects, the desire to bring suffering, and the desire to dominate. He's trying to be that for the first season. He's trying so hard to be that, but he's not that in his heart. And ultimately, obviously, making the choice to join Aang is the biggest proof of that and evidence of that. And it's always a great struggle with him. We'll get into him in a little bit. This episode, of course, is sponsored by our friends at movieposters.com, the #1 place to get your posters online today. Be sure to use our promo code Raiders10 at movieposters.com to get 10% off your order right now. They have a huge selection of pretty much every movie and poster and TV show imaginable in their poster library. For all of your poster needs, be sure to go to movieposters.com and use our promo code Raiders10 right now to get 10% off your order today. But next up, we have Uncle Iroh. Iroh is, in a lot of ways, like Aang, a heart of the story, especially for Zuko. He is a man who's extremely flawed. He's made so many grave mistakes in his past. He used to be a general for the Fire Nation. He once held siege to Ba Sing Se, where his son was killed. And he finally learned the immense gravity and weight of war and the effects of it has on suffering when he suffered himself from the loss of his son. One of the most emotional two of the most emotional moments of the whole show. His tale about his son, and then also when Zuko comes to him to apologize and he can't come up with the words, and instead Iroh just hugs him. And if you don't cry at that moment, you don't have feelings. And so Iroh, in so many ways, is a major part of the connection to love and a heartbeat for the show.
Yeah, absolutely. He really is like the heart of the show. He's constantly, even when he like ends up meeting one of the members of Team Avatar, he's constantly giving them wisdom to live life by. This is a character who, like, even from the beginning, you can tell has had a storied history and has been through a lot. Like you said, the two episodes that stand out are the Tales of Ba Sing Se, and then when Zuko beats him again after everything in season 3. And those are like the 2 points where I think those are the 2 points in the series where I cried. Because in the Tales of Ba Sing Se, if you don't know, at the end they say in honor of Mako. So Mako was actually the voice actor of Uncle Iroh. He was diagnosed with terminal cancer when they started recording season 2, and so that scene was dedicated to Mako. And so while they did, that's in the actual animation, it's Iroh visiting like basically his son. The image they use for his son is actually a young Mako. So like that is him crying, and basically, from my understanding, it was one of the last things he recorded before he passed away. So he filmed all of season 2, and then shortly after they wrapped, he had passed away. So I think the tale of Mako also makes his character so much more important. With how spiritual he is and how just important he is into the franchise and giving these lessons. He's so important to Zuko's character arc, and the just everything he has gone through, and to see the character he's come out as is so interesting. And I just know I always look forward to the next time Iroh's on screen, because he's gonna just spit out a gem of some just insane words of wisdom where you're like, what the hell did you just say?
And also very funny too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, where like they're trying to, when they initially, like in season 3, go and look for him, they find what's her name with who has the animal that can like smell like
the giant
track
thing.
Sense.
Yeah,
I always forget. I forget her name because she's only in a handful of episodes because she's in season 1 and then season.
She's
3.
like a bounty hunter.
And they track him down. She's like,
name.
yeah, you have a strong scent. Yeah, they like have his sandal, and he's got like his scent's so strong they can find him just from the sandal.
I love when he gets fucking jacked in prison, and they show that montage of him working out.
He's like, oh, thanks for the meal.
Rips his shirt off.
Starts just doing clapping push-ups, and I'm like, damn,
so funny. He's just got an apple in his mouth. It's so funny.
He's such a funny character who's also just so badass at the same time. The scene at the near near the end where Sozin's comments there, and he's like, "A firebender only gets to feel this once in 100 years," and then like just his breathing is enough to surround them in flames, which I'm like, oh shit, this dude's like strong. And also my favorite symbol is when he burns the Fire Nation flag. That's hanging on the
revealing
wall.
the Earth symbol behind it.
Yeah.
That's great. And I
him being the savior of Ba Sing Se after raiding it for
sieging
years
it,
is just such a cool turnaround on his character.
And I love he just wants to make at the end of the day he just wants to serve people tea. But
exactly.
He feels like he has to stay involved to protect Zuko and help Zuko. And so I love how when things he even also he's like in Ba Sing Se, he's like, then they start this tea shop, and he's like, I just want to do this. And then finally, at the end of this series, he has his tea shop, and everybody's there. It's such a wonderful conclusion for his character to be like, he's been a soldier all his life, but his calling really was to just nurture people and serve people.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, next up we have Katara at number 3, the water bending protege and then master. She is, in a lot of ways, the guiding force for the trio, constantly getting Aang to accept his duties as the Avatar and trying to keep them in line, both boys in line. She's also the reason why Aang was freed in the first place, so very important. She is one of the most powerful people in the planet. Her waterbending is incredible, and I love her arc because she's constantly battling against the times. She's battling against the men, water tribe, like you said earlier. Women in the water tribe are only allowed to use waterbending for healing, and she's trying to become more than that. And she does eventually train with the master, who finally accepts her after she nearly wipes the floor with him. I love the relationship between her and Aang. It's complicated. He's had a crush on her since the moment he saw her, kind of like love at first sight, but he's a kid. He's a few years younger than her. It takes her a while to realize that she also loves him. And I mean, I love the ending of the show is them. They have their kiss, and then it's just the beautiful sunset. I thought it was just like a perfect finale for the show. But Katara is vital to the story ever working and for their success in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Katara is such an interesting character. She definitely, besides Zuko and Aang, gets the most screen time of any character, and she just is. It's so cool to see how she transforms as a character, because she initially comes off as probably the most put together of Team Avatar.
The mom.
But when you get to season 2 and 3 and you really start to cover like her mom and her trauma with that, you're like, no, she's messed up. She's a slave to her hate towards the Fire Nation. And she is just the moment that she can find out that she can like avenge her mom is just overtaken by rage, and that's all she can think about, which is so interesting because that's not what her character is about. And she shows that like these great people can harbor like such dark hatred where it's like she's gonna hunt someone down and kill them as a 16-year-old. It's especially growing up in a tribe where like that's not her culture either. She's such a cool character that harbors such an interesting darkness. While I know some people will jokingly complain, they're like, "Oh, everything." Some character will complain about something in the series, and she's like, "You know what else was bad? My mom getting killed in front of me." Which like, I'm like, yeah, she does bring it up a lot.
Yeah,
but like. At the same time, it's such an interesting storyline for her, given who she is as a character as a whole. So she's got just this dark part of her that exists that kind of remains hidden for a lot of the series. But then when it comes out, you kind of get to see like how messed up she kind of is. And so I think she grows in a lot more subtle way compared to I think a lot of the other characters in Team Avatar. But I think she's such a perfect match for Aang.
And
I think that because they're not necessarily opposites, but in certain ways they are, and just like their general demeanor, and they are within social interaction. So it makes sense that a lot of, while she's very go with the flow on certain things, she still has a certain rigidity to herself, which I think is a good match to Aang, where they'll complement each other because she's willing to do a lot of more weird stuff, but she also can kind of like reel Aang in on when he's a little bit too like just free wild child
over the wall. Yeah. And the point of contention with her with that darkness and that she has that revenge in her, the desire for revenge. She's the last person to trust Zuko. It's really whenever she sees a member of the Fire Nation that comes out tenfold. But there's also that goodness that goodness within her still overpowers that. And a great example is when she's trapped in the cave prison with Zuko. She hates him. But then, at the end of their time in the cave, she considers giving him that powerful healing water to heal his eye. So she's still, that goodness in her always outweighs that desire for revenge. Ultimately,
exactly. I think that's what makes her such a fascinating character is for that to exist and for her to still manage to overcome it. Just such a cool character, and she's so badass at the same time. The way she can uniquely use water bending, she can blood bend,
dude. The blood bending is crazy,
scary. I'm like, just that alone makes her arguably the scariest person in the series, minus like Aang.
And she almost kills that guy with like she turns the drops into little spheres, and then she stops at the last second. Like she could have just fucking killed that guy.
Exactly. Like you kind of underestimate how powerful she is until there's like certain moments happen. You're like, oh fuck, I forgot. Yeah, she's kind of like the most powerful waterbender in the show. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, she almost beats the master, or she does.
Yeah, I think by the end of the show, you fairly unilaterally say she's the strongest waterbender.
Definitely by the end. All right, next up at number 2 we have Zuko. One of the most important characters to the show, one of the best character arcs, and like I said earlier, I found him annoying for the most part for the first season. And then his arc in season 2 and 3 are just phenomenal. He has a great solo episode. It's like this Western type episode, solitary one, and it's just showcasing the incredible character that he is. He's someone that, in a lot of ways, he was born into the wrong circumstances. He is not an evil person. He is not a cruel person. He tries to be. And he thinks that he has to be. But he overcomes that. He overcomes what he thinks he should be and becomes who he really is by the end of the season, which is really ultimately the main theme of his character arc. But Zuko is phenomenal. I love him. Him and Iroh, their transformations together, they really are like a father and son. Ozai is not a father to Zuko at all. He's more of a commander than anything. He's an incredibly flawed person, horribly tragic. But he does make the right choices in the end, even though he struggles to make that choice throughout the course of the entire show. And especially in that confrontation in the basement of the palace where you think he's on the side of Aang and Katara, and then he does attack Aang, choosing Azula. When he made that choice, I was like, no, come on, man. You could have joined them. And so I like how they didn't make it easy for him to take Aang's side, even though he knew it was right. It was still like, I have to do the Fire Nation. I have to be in the Fire Nation. This is my family. This is what I should do. So he's constantly struggling with that his entire series.
Yeah, this is one of the best written characters I've seen in fiction. It's this whole arc he has is one of the greatest character arcs I've ever witnessed. He goes from this just this kid who is just, all he wants to do is get his dad's acceptance and return to the Fire Nation, and is stuck with his uncle who has been who's like semi disgraced and who he sees as a failure and doesn't understand that his uncle is who he should be aspiring to be, not his dad. And that this whole journey he goes on from just having these moments where he shows that he's not a bad person. He's just doing what he thinks is the right thing to do, and what he should be doing. So the way that his character just changes from season to season is so fascinating, and the way that he like learns to start respecting all these other nations, because at first he's a pure firebender, but we see in season 2 he picks up swords and he's an incredible swordsman. And so we find him having these, I guess, layers to himself, because he what's the name of the fake identity he makes? The blue demon, the blue devil mask.
It's hold on, I got it right here. Blue Spirit.
The blue spirit. So when he has his blue spirit character, it's all, even though he's putting a mask on, he's really taking the mask off. He's doing what he knows is the right thing to do and what he would do normally if he hadn't been in the situation that he was in of wanting to return to the Fire Nation. So that's like, I think those are the first signs we get of Zuko acting with his just own volition and doing things because he personally knows they're right and doesn't like need to consider it. By putting on the mask, he doesn't need to consider what the Fire Nation would perceive of it. He can finally just do what he wants to do.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And one of the best episodes is Zuko alone, with his tail, like that Western tail, and he battles the Earthbenders with swords. And then he tries to go as long as he can without revealing that he's a firebender. But it's
season
just a great
2
moment.
is as much his season as it is Aang's season.
It really did. Like I remember thinking that while watching season 2, I'm like, okay, he's really becoming as major of a character as Aang is for the story.
Yeah, like he's a borderline deuteragonist by the end of the series.
Absolutely. But I love Zuko, and it's especially like after he and Iroh cut off their top nuts, it's like such a major moment for both of them, of they are no longer part of the Fire Nation, essentially. And it's just a great metaphor for cutting themselves from the grip of Ozai. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I forgot about that. Of Iroh cutting his off too. Yeah, it's such a cool moment to see them start to separate themselves.
All right, next up at number 1, we have the lead of the show, Aang, the Last Airbender. I think that Aang is the only person who could have pulled off what he did and the way he did it. I think that if many of these other characters were the Avatar, they probably would have chose to kill Ozai. But Aang's purity and goodness and inner morality are his strengths. And he's a kid. He's the reluctant hero, which is a common archetype. But what I always found so powerful about the series is that he's just a kid. He's not an adult. And even by the end of the series, he's not an adult. He's still just a kid. But he's put into the situation, and basically his hand is forced to accept the responsibilities of saving the world. I love how it's hard for him to accept that. It's hard for him to believe that he is the one. But ultimately, he's the only one who could have done it at the end of the day. He goes through so many great moments. I love the Avatar state. I love the sequences of him learning about the other avatars, especially Roku and his story with Sozin, one of my favorite episodes. But ultimately, Aang is defined by his goodness and his morality. And there are a couple moments like there he goes through a dark period where he does want to take revenge, and he is fueled by fury and anger and vengeance. And he has to overcome that to remain good and moral at the end. Also, just like Sokka, he's huge comedic relief and so much fun and joy to be around. And some of the funniest moments are Aang moments for sure.
Yeah, Aang is just I think is the best written child I've seen in like a television show, where I'm like, this is I think this hits everything, where like he feels like a kid, but he also like he's a preteen / teenager, where like he feels like someone about that age, where I think that's something a lot of shows struggle with writing younger characters, is how to depict them, because over the age of like 5 to 13, the kids change so much in the way that they speak and think. And I think Aang is one of the few times where like they've truly nailed it perfectly, where I'm like, this is a kid who understands the gravity of things, but is still young enough to where he doesn't want that responsibility and thinks he can just brush it off. And the way that they just write his character to like where he is. I don't want to say unrecognizable because he's not, because he's still Aang at the end, but he's just so much more matured at the end of the series to where it's like you can just like visually looking at the character, you can tell he has been through shit, and that's that's a lot of season 1 is him kind of coming to terms with that. Season 2 is him kind of dealing with the darker side of things. So when Appa gets taken, Aang is just rage filled. Just hearing the words that Appa got muzzled, Aang lost it. He lost control of the Avatar state and almost killed people. It's like they remind you how he is a very flawed character, but in the end, even despite being a flawed person, you can still make the right decision. And I think that's such an interesting thing with Aang's character, where he's not perfect, and but he still is, as the Avatar, and as a child, is still knows he has to make the right decision. And just because something's the right decision for the Avatar to make doesn't mean it's the right decision for the world. And so him deciding to not kill Ozai and to spare him and take away his bending is not a decision, even though it's something he fought with. I don't think Aang at the beginning of the series would have spared him. I think he's a different character by the end, where he's seen so much. He's come to understand how much depth people have. Looking at Zuko, Zuko initially is this character who is the antagonist for at least season 1, as we initially meet him, and that's how Aang sees him. But by the time we get to there, Aang understands there's so much depth to him, there's so much depth to everyone, that killing Ozai isn't the right thing to do. There's more going on. He's not just evil. Like, there's a reason he's the way he is. So, and I think Aang understands that better than a lot of people, because he understands nature, because he's the Avatar. He's the most spiritually connected. He understands how much goes on for people to be who they are, and for how the world to be the way it is. There's a lot of balance. So the journey he goes on is truly spectacular, to see how much he grows just as a person and spiritually. He's such a great character.
Yeah, I love, like you said, he has a pure connection to nature and in the spiritual world, and you see that multiple times in a couple of sequences. But also, choosing to not kill Ozai, he's choosing to end the cycle of death, of killing. And like you said earlier in the episode, if he had killed Ozai, the Fire Nation probably wouldn't have given in that easily. But also, he's a tragic character because he's the last of his kind. He's the last of his race. He's the final airbender. His entire people have been wiped out. And so that's a horrible thing for him to go through, and to understand the devastating effects of war. And it's a huge theme to put into a kid's show, to be like, oh, this entire people was wiped out by these villains. And so it's just a horrible backstory for the character. And one of my favorite episodes is learning about him at the temple, training, and in the elders seeing that he truly was the Avatar. It was just like one of my all-time favorites. Then also his moments with the Guru, his moments in the Avatar state, in the spiritual realm, some of the most magical, incredible moments of the entire series.
Yeah, I think something that's really cool is how powerful he is as an airbender. I think it gets undercut a little bit from him learning other bending elements, but in the story for air nomads, you get your tattoo when you become a airbending master. So for that to happen, there's only 2 ways to do that. You either have to master every single style of airbending, which takes a very long time, or you have to create your own airbending technique. Because the only people who are going to be creating their own techniques are people who are so vastly talented and skilled that they are at the level of a master. Aang didn't learn all the elements. So the air scooter that he rides, the little ball that he has, he created that technique, and him creating that made him a master.
I love when he's riding around in school in front of the others.
Yeah, and it's such a cool thing. Like, I think people kind of forget about it. You're like, no, this is in terms of airbending, he is even when the rest of the airbenders were alive, he was considered one of the best. And he got his master's tattoos at like 11 years old. And so I think there's a certain level of like, with Aang being a child, they also forget that how formidable he is as a fighter outside of being an avatar.
Yeah, great point.
He's such a skilled person. Before he found out he was the avatar, he just naturally had this talent, which is I think something that people forget about and makes him just really fucking cool when he does like crazy airbending shit.
And when he's in Avatar state and he has all 4 elements happening at once, I was like, oh my god, this is insane. Yeah. This is crazy.
I think, like, one of the creators said, like, you can't, so like they visualize everything for you. You can't see airbending. Like they can't see what Aang does. So Aang's just like moving his hands around and then someone falls over. And like no one can see the wind or the air doing anything. So I think it also makes Aang just way scarier in universe. You just see a 12-year-old swing staff at you, and then you see like 3 guys get sent 30 feet back. And like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I forgot. I mean, the staff is so vital to him for transportation. I forgot about the staff completely.
It's one of his last connections to his culture too.
Yeah,
which I think is cool.
That's it for characters. So let's get into, we have a ranking of best moments, and these are non-fights because we have a ranking of fights as well. But these are just moments, whether they be profound, emotional, epic, shocking, surprising. So at number 10, we have Iroh's tale of his son, which we mentioned earlier, which is absolutely devastating. And then Aang's backstory, which I thought was really fantastic. And just to see the airbenders, because we knew they were wiped out, so it's so tragic to see them in the society and this community. And I also love the temples. The design of the temples are my favorite locations in the entire show. Both temples, the Eastern and the Western. Cool.
Yeah, when they visit the first one that they visit, I thought that was so cool. They meet Momo. They have like all the Avatar statues there.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So much detail goes into it.
And then at number 8, we have the Blue Spirit escape. This is when Zuko dresses up as his alter ego, the Blue Spirit, to help Aang escape. This is just a really fantastic, it's a chase, it's a breakout. Both characters are working together using their strengths. It's really exciting. One of the most exciting action sequences of the entire show. I was just like floored by that sequence. It was so fun.
Yeah, I think all the Blue Spirit moments are just really cool because you get to see like just the peak athleticism in the series when most people are just relying on the bending.
And it's ironic that Zuko chose the color blue and the Blue Spirit, which is a contrast to fire for his alter ego. It shows that inside of him he's not wholly supposed to be like in this world. He doesn't belong in the Fire Nation.
He puts a blue mask on, which is really representative of his true self, which is an opposite to the Fire Nation.
Exactly. All right, then we have Aang's first Avatar state experience, which was fantastic. This happened when he was fighting Zuko, and he got into the Avatar state when he was underwater, and then he showcased insane power that we had not seen before. So it was a great tease for the potential he had in the Avatar state. And I love how they slowly rolled it out, but that was like the first moment we saw the sheer magnitude of his power. This is also when he couldn't control it.
Yeah, I love how sparingly they use the Avatar state. Mm-hmm. It makes it so much more impactful when it's pulled out.
Yeah, if he was like going Super Saiyan every time, it's just takes,
they avoid the Dragon Ball Z treatment.
So here we go, Super Saiyan again.
Oh, everyone's a Super Saiyan now. Like, what do you mean everyone's an Avatar?
Exactly. And then number 6, Iroh hugging Zuko when Zuko couldn't come up with the words of apology. We mentioned earlier, very, very tragic and powerful moment. Aang taking away Ozai's firebending at the end of the series, so powerful. And you're like he's approaching him. You're like, what's he gonna do? And then their laser eyes into the sky, and he just sucks out all of his bending power. It's fantastic.
That whole moment's so cool. He uses seismic sense for the time.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
he finally does it, and he feels him move, and he just uses his foot to do it too. He does his that first time the first hand he traps is just with his feet, which is so cool. So like he's mastered earthbending to such a degree to where he can like create like a fairly exact formation with just swinging his foot back.
Mm-hmm. It's fantastic.
I think it's such a cool character.
Next up, we have one of my favorite moments was Aang and Zuko's episode where they visited the firebending masters and they learned the dragon dance. And I loved that sequence. It was so cool, so interesting. visually stunning, but also Zuko and Aang connecting, which was vital.
Yeah, I think it was visually it was the peak of the series. This and the fight between Zuko and Azula. That really was so beautiful. I remember watching that when I was young, and I was just like,
yeah,
seeing all the fire, different colors. I love the way that they recontextualize firebending and the Fire Nation, showing how much they've lost their way, because this is not what we see the Fire Nation as isn't what firebending was or what it was about.
Been twisted
initially, and they. Yeah, it's become twisted, and as they've shown, the average firebender is a lot weaker than they used to be. When you've learned from the dragons and the original firebenders, you understand your firebending doesn't come from a place of anger or rage. It comes from tranquility and peaceful, because a fire is going to get out of control if it's too wild, and but if it's having a peaceful nature and being at peace inside allows you to bring out the full force of the fire, rather than having it get blown out necessarily before you can reach its peak.
Fire's not about destruction; it's a representation of life. Is like the major theme of that episode. It's really great to see in a new light.
Yeah.
Next up, we have for best moments the entire airship battle sequence, and this is when there's so many great moments of interacting on the ships and the whole crew. I like how Toph shoots them up there with the earth. And it ends on Sokka taking out the entire air fleet by when they take control of one of them, and he just turns it into the others and just scrapes against the tops of each of them and completely disarming them and
it's
making
so cool
them all
to see
crash.
the least powerful character
Yes.
probably do the most in terms of damage to the Fire Nation.
Mm-hmm. And I love the red sky of the comet. That whole sequence is just so those 4 episodes are visually a visual feast.
They wrote that finale a while before they filmed and recorded it. That was probably that finale sequence for the last 4 episodes was probably in the works for a long time.
Oh, definitely. All right, next up, one of the most powerful moments of the show was Zuko taking Azula's lightning strike to save Katara, which was a huge moment. It allowed Katara to get the momentum in the fight and take out Azula, but also prove that he's willing to sacrifice himself to save his friends. And it was a major step forward for him, and really surprising when I thought for a moment he was done.
Yeah. The first time I watched it, I think most people's first time watching it, they don't really catch that he actually redirects the lightning, but he does do it in the improper form, which is what takes him down.
Yeah, without having to stand.
If you see as he falls down, if you watch him, the lightning's coming out of his arm as he's falling down, and you see it shoot out when they do the big wide shot from like at a distance.
Gotcha. So when I first watched it, I thought he took the hit completely.
So he does kind of take it head on. So he basically does what Iroh says, if you do this wrong, it can kill you, is if you catch it and then you're supposed to bring it through the stomach and out. If you bring it across the chest, the lightning will hit your heart and you'll die, which is, or you could die, very likely, which is what we see happen there. He almost dies if it wasn't for Katara. So for all intents and purposes, he did take the lightning strike. So... yeah. It's such a big moment for his character. It's the final. It's nail in coffin where it's like, yep, he's completed. That's the final step of the journey. I think
absolutely.
He's willing to die for these people.
Not just fight his sister, but to sacrifice himself to save Katara. That was it. All right, and the number 1 on best moments list, I think it was just mind blowing to see Aang turn into the giant koi fish spirit giant. It's just, I was like, what the fuck? This is crazy. I was like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, he went straight kaiju. He was just comes out of the water and just destroys an entire fleet.
Yeah.
This is the one thing where I'm like, you can tell that the Avatar state is like essentially like a hive mind of all the avatars, because hindsight, you're like, Aang just killed probably a bunch of people. Like a lot, because they're getting thrown into freezing water in the North Pole.
They're done. They're done.
You think they can swim to shore in time?
No way.
I'm like, Aang just probably killed thousands of people, but we just will not cover that. We'll move on.
Let's move on.
Yeah, but I think that's like probably more of a storytelling moment where we get to see the true personalities of the avatars, what they're willing to kill, even though Aang has shown he's not into that. So I think at the time we might not be aware of it, but in that like on a rewatch, watching that moment, you're like, this is sort of foretelling the conflict Aang is going to have at the end, is if whether he should kill or not. And when he goes to the avatars, looking at that moment with where he enters the avatar state in the end of season 1, like we already know all the avatars' answers are going to be.
Yeah.
Going into that. So I think this is like the first sign of that conflict really early on, even if most viewers don't realize it.
I also loved how it's not something he can do again. It was a kind of like a one-time thing turning into this koi fish giant. It's not, like when I first saw that episode, I was like, oh, is this something is this like a power he's going to be able to use anytime? But it's not, which I thought was smart.
I imagine that I feel like that was somewhat assisted by UA, or the other koi fish spirit.
I think it was the koi fish spirit.
I forgot one's the moon, one's the water. So the water one who lived probably is. The
I think it joined forces with Aang, which is really what did it. So I liked how it's not something that could be repeated, because it would have made it too easy for him in every battle if he could just turn into that thing.
Yeah.
Speaking of battles, let's get into our ranking of the 20 best fights from Avatar: Last Airbender. So number 20, we have Zuko versus Jet swordplay battle, which is fantastic. No bending, it's just swords, and it's just phenomenal. Zuko proving once again that he's not just an incredibly talented firebender, but a very talented martial artist as well. Then we have.
I think it's really cool how capable they show him being, despite like how much the Fire Nation tries to like tell him he's not as good as his sister and all that. You're like, no, he's just a much more well-rounded person.
Absolutely. Next up, we have Combustion Man number 1. This is when Combustion Man, or at the time Sparky Bang Man Boom Man, attacks them in the woods, and they're like, "What the fuck is this guy?" This is great, very surprising. You're like, what is up with this guy's eye on his forehead when he's first hired? You're like, who is this guy? And it was a great, shocking little battle sequence. It's short, but it's fun.
Yeah, I think all the fights, or like the 2 fights they have with him, are just hysterical.
Yeah,
because like in actuality, that's a terrifying bending ability. Is you can just shoot out of your forehead. It's crazy. He just needs to inhale and he just shoots it out. Like that's actually way scarier than a lot of the other bending techniques, because you got to get like a full range of motion. He can just look at you and just.
And it's just like a fucking rocket shot. It's like a laser shot. It's not just.
I think it's hysterical how they make such an imposing character. All of his fights so goofy.
All right, number 18, we have Katara versus Master Paku at the Water Tribe. She begs him to train her, and he refuses because she's a girl. And so then she's like, you know what? Let's fight, bitch. And she shows how talented and how immensely powerful she is, and to the point where Master Paku finally agrees to train her.
Yeah, I think this is a really cool moment, just in terms of character growth so it's so significant for actually both characters, because Paku's so stuck in his ways. This opened his eyes to many things, and also I think the I don't know. I'm trying to think of the right word. Just the ideas of the youth and the changes they can bring about. Kind of, he's been, I think, has just sort of become jaded to the idea of change after everything that's gone on with the Fire Nation, and so he's been able to, through them, accept that you can change things, and so he not only changes his ways to go train Katara, but also goes to the Southern Water Tribe to reunite with their grandmother.
Yes,
and pursue the love that he wasn't able to when he was younger.
I can also imagine that after the events of this film, the society changed in the Water Tribes, where girls were able to train just like boys. I would imagine that.
The Legend of Korra definitely like shows the societal impact that occurred
of gender
from the
dynamics
of Avatar. Yeah, like the main city it takes place in is like looks like it's out of the 1900s. Like technology advances at a fast pace. It's basically kind of what happens to parody on an Attack on Titan, where once everything happens, they very rapidly catch up to modern times. So this war is literally holding back the world scientifically and societally. So it's really interesting to see how much the war held everything back.
All right, number 17, we have Prince Zuko versus the Earthbenders in that small town. In his solo episode, it's kind of like a Western standoff in a way. It's really fantastic. He's battling with just his swords, and then it gets to the point where he's like, okay, I got to reveal myself as a firebender, and he just takes no prisoners. It's a great little sequence and showcases a lot of great character development for him.
Yeah, a lot of those solo episodes just do so much for individual character story, and just propelling everything even further. I think every time Zuko gets a spotlight, it's just some of the best episodes in the series.
Oh yeah, for sure. Next up at 16, we have the gang versus who? The Swamp Giant. Which is a lot of fun. You think it's just this huge giant monster, and then we learn that there's a bunch of earthbenders hidden inside of its body controlling it. And it was just really great, visually stunning, a fun little side quest episode, I think.
Yeah, I love the idea of having waterbenders who just live in the swamp.
Yeah, sorry, waterbenders. I call them earthbenders.
Yeah. So just I think the two guys they have are just hilarious. How they're just hodunk guys just living in the swamp, and they're like, hey, you can mend water too.
And they show up at the end. Yeah. They show up again.
Yeah, they show up at the end. Like they actually help out, which I'm like for such one-off characters, it's hysterical. They remember them and bring them back.
When they showed up, I was like, oh my God, they're back. I love this. It was great. It was great seeing them again.
I'm like, holy shit, I forgot about them.
All right, number 15, we have Sokka versus Master Piando, who teaches him sword mastery, and he earns the black sword. It's a really great battle sequence, and Sokka proving himself to be a great warrior in his own right.
Oh yeah, I think in terms of just like non-benders, this might be my favorite fight. Just what it means for Sokka's character, and just it's the finale of the series, so it also has like the biggest budget, so the animation's really well done. I love the choreography of how it's like a proper sword fight, and it's just watching Master Piandao just. How his fighting style, and then I love the reveal that he's just like actually just a good guy at the end where he's like Sokka, you've passed, you've earned this sword, and if it, like how he's secretly part of the White Lotus, and I love just the small things you can like appreciate on a rewatch where you're just like, this isn't the battle isn't what you think it is at first.
And what's cool is whenever Sokka pulls that sword out after that, you whenever you see that sword, you remember what he went through to earn it. It's not just a weapon. It's a lot more than just a sword for him.
It means so much more to him, which I think is so interesting in the fact of Boomerang, it's been his mainstay since the beginning of the series, always comes back. But it's a reminder of his old self, while the meteorite sword, he actually throws it and it's gone. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to see that he actually loses this weapon that is supposed to be representative of his new self, of his journey, but he ends up keeping on the boomerang. So,
that's a great point.
I maybe would love to just on my own explore that a little bit more, because I think that's an interesting.
I think that represents being able to let go of the past instead of always the boomerang. It's like represents like who he was in his former life, and never being able to let go of that and move on.
Yeah, I could see that, because also the meteorite sword represents the old Fire Nation. It was the only reason they had it is because what the Fire Nation did and all that. So it's still a product of the old Fire Nation. So another literary analysis you could have.
So much. At number 14, we have Toph versus the Earthbenders in her debut episode, which is such a fun fight. It's great to see a bunch of master Earthbenders going up against her and seeing how incredibly powerful she is. And this is the first time we see, even though she's blind, she can see through seismic permeations in the earth. Just really fantastic, visually stunning moment.
Yeah, a great way to really like introduce us to like earthbending at large, because we saw a little bit of it at the beginning of the show, but like not much besides that because it was forbidden. And so now that we get to see it in full action, you get to see how cool it is. And I think earthbending is the most fun to watch animated. In terms of just like a full on fight scene, where you're like that the most is going on there. With water bending, it not as it's because it's water. It like not as I don't know
You like the physicality of it. I think
the physicality of it. It feels like a real battle.
Yeah.
While it's like a battle of attrition versus the other bending other elements are more of a battle of finesse and skill.
Yeah, I do think that. I mean, the earthbending is probably the most dangerous because you take a fucking rock to the head, you're dead. Yeah. But you can survive a burn, you can survive water, obviously, and air. So I think that it's the most dangerous to go up against in a lot of ways, especially when you can see what earthbenders can do. All right, next up we have Aang versus Zula. This is in season 2 when they fight atop the drill trying to break through the barrier wall of the city. I think this is fantastic. This is Aang using earthbending. He's getting very skilled. He's able to like make the armor with the stone. There's a funny moment where the stone turns to wet sand. It's a really great fight. Aang and Azula on that drill is very exciting, I think, for that second season.
I think it's like the first fight you really get to see Aang like use tactics in a fight where he's facing someone who is at a similar skill level to him as a fighter. So he has to outthink her since he can't just overpower her. So him like running back up the wall and coming down to break the drill is super cool. And so the whole fight, I think it's really cool how it forces Aang to like actually think and strategize rather than just try and just blow people away.
Absolutely. All right, number 12, we have Zuko versus Lord Ozai. This is a great short battle. Previously, we saw a flashback of Zuko when he was supposed to fight Ozai and he refused to fight his father, and Ozai punished him by burning his eye. It's a tragic backstory, and we get to see that full circle with Zuko's redemption of defying his father and standing up against him and redirecting the lightning right into him. Great moment.
Absolutely. Really cool, quick moment.
Next up at 11, Roku versus Sozin in the flashback episode of the previous Avatar's backstory with the previous Fire Nation's leader, Sozin. This is a great battle where Sozin, when Roku turns his back to leave the temple, and Sozin just shoots out a giant wave of flames at him, and then Roku's like, shouldn't have done that, bro, and then absolutely manhandles him, being the Avatar. He's the peak Avatar. So, like, he's unbeatable, and it's a great fight between the two of them. But also an emotional moment for really the two former friends now being complete enemies.
Yeah, I think it's such a cool thing story-wise to see how this all started. What was, like, the real cause for the hunt for the Avatar is... Why is Sozin so hellbent on this? You now find out he was best friends with Roku, who is one of the old. He lives a full life. He's like old. He's like 80 something probably, or like at least 60 something by the time he dies. And so he's a fully realized Avatar, and that scared Sozin so much that it rippled through the Fire Nation for 100 years, to where they spent the next 100 years after Sozin died hunting the Avatar so they can finally actually have their war and take over like they wanted to. So it's such a, I mean, it's just a cool way to introduce the origin and also put stakes into it. You find out Zuko's descendant from Roku. So it's because it was Roku's daughter or whatever marries into the Fire Nation family, because I think Zuko's mom is like his granddaughter or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's so cool to see all the connections that like they start to form with the flashback in this fight.
Yeah, 100%. And the ripple effects, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
At number 10, number 11. No, yeah, number 10. Sorry, Zuko versus Katara in the North Pole at the end of season 1. This is a great fight. You can really see that Katara is has become so highly skilled that she can go up against incredible firebender like Zuko. It's great to see for the first time in a major way fire versus water. I love this fight.
Yeah, seeing her natural talent on display is awesome because we know it's there and we see a little bit like of it when she fights Master Paku, but like it's still like an exhibition. They're not like actually trying to fight each other. So you get to see the first time of her trying. You're like, oh, with this little training, she's already gotten this much better. So it's like our first like little taste of truly how powerful she's going to become.
Whereas Zuko has been training all his life, so it's great to see how well she can fight up against him. At number 9, we have Katara versus Hama, where she learns that bloodbending is possible. And this is it's a short fight, but it's really disturbing, and it's really like the horror episode of the series. It's really well done, visually stunning, but very disturbing. Frightening as well. It's really such a cool, visually stunning sequence.
I remember being very disturbed by this as a kid.
Yeah,
I
bet.
Yeah, I remember she starts like waterbending the rats or the mice or whatever.
Yes, yeah.
And I remember getting. I watched. I was like, I don't like watching this. This is. It was one of the few times, as a kid, where I was like, I feel comfortable watching the show.
That's messed up, yeah. And like basically,
it's definitely a dark subject matter for kids.
Yeah, people called her a witch because she was able to turn people into puppets with their blood. So it's a really creative episode, really creative. At number 8, we have
I love their ability to cover different genres.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Sorry,
no worries. At number 8, we have the White Lotus versus the Fire Nation. So this is one of the sequences in the big finale. And all the old members of the White Lotus have joined up, and they're like, let's go take out the Fire Nation. Just so epic, so much fun to see them all, and to see like Iroh as like the leader of them.
Yeah, that was also one of my favorite moments in the series. It's so cool to see all these characters who we love individually all come together on screen at the same time. And just be essentially the most badass characters in the show outside of the main cast, and just take down an entire occupied city with just like 6 dudes. 6 dudes who were like, oh, we just like to drink tea and play what's the name of the game they play?
Oh, I can't remember.
It's not shogi. That's an actual game. But basically just dudes who like to drink tea and play board games, who also just happen to be the most powerful benders of each of the elements, pulling up to a city. You're like, all right, well, I guess we're time for us to finally show why we have the reputation we have.
I love it. All right, next up at number 7, we have a much smaller scale fight, but still very impactful. It's Zuko versus Commander Zhao. This is a moment where he's going up against the commander of the army. Shows that Zuko has more will to win than even the commander. Shows how talented he is, and shows the drive and motivation he has. So this is a major step forward for Zuko's character. It's a great fight. It's like the traditional fighting style, ritual style of firebending.
Yeah, every Agni Kai that happens in the series is always such an important and cool moment, because it's always some major conflict for all the characters involved.
Yeah,
and I think every single time they do it, they knock it out of the park. Where it's important and meaningful in some way. Every small moment between the characters, and then and whatever conclusion it has.
Yeah, 100%. All right, next up at number 6, we have Aang versus Zuko versus Azula in that empty kind of like western town. This is a great fight. Zuko's not sure what side he's on at this point, but it's kind of like a free-for-all, everyone for themselves, but it's a really epic, visually stunning, very destructive of the structures all around them. It's a fun fight.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a super fun time. I remember they corner... I think they corner Azula.
They corner her, yeah.
But
she gets out. She gets out of the... Yeah.
Yeah, I remember watching that fight, and I was like, that's kind of where I was kind of like, okay, this is, like, part of me feels like Zuko is not going to fully commit. I was watching it as it was going.
Yeah.
Or I'm like, that's kind of, that's where I at least was kind of made the assumption that Zuko wasn't going to fully commit to being a good guy just yet. And obviously I was proven true by the finale of that season, but I think this is kind of like one of the final times where you get to see like Zuko choosing the Fire Nation over what he knows is right.
Yeah, it's an important part for his
really cool fight though, fun time.
Yeah, his conflicting interior. Like, do I do what's right or do I stay with my family? It's always weighing on him. All right, next up we have the gang versus Zula, Tai, and May. This is their first battle in Ba Sing Se. Super fun, visually stunning, doing all those slides, but also seeing that Zula and her two friends, Tai and May, are, even though they're not benders, they are very good fighters, and they give the gang more than what they can handle. It's a great, fun, entertaining battle sequence. It's also a chase too.
Yeah. It's super fun because I remember Ty Lee, she just like comments on Sokka being cute and then just hits his nerves in his arm. He's like, oh, what's going on?
Goes limp.
It's so funny. I think the way the energy they animate that whole fight with is just, it's great. It's hysterical, but it's also like they make non-benders threatening, which is I think the first time they really do that in the series.
Yeah, I would say it's like the most entertaining fight for sure. It's great. It's a great time. All right, at number 4, we have Combustion Man number 2. This is when he attacks them when they're at the Western Air Temple. It's visually stunning, very destructive, intense, and Zuko helps them save the day. Ultimately, it's Boomerang, which takes out Combustion Man, but it's a lot of fun. it's also a major step forward for Zuko joining up with them. Hey guys, Zuko here. Love it.
Man, what a that whole that whole section where they're hiding out in the temple is just one of my favorite parts of the series, because it's like it's finally died down a bit and we can just have just character moments, and which is like when the series is at its best, is when the characters can just bounce off of each other. And this is just such a great moment for the characters themselves, and also just a funny fight for where such an imposing figure is just taken out so stupidly with a boomerang.
He seemed unbeatable. Like, cool. He seemed indestructible.
Possibly the strongest person they fought so far just got taken out by Sokka. Well, that's cool.
I loved it. All right, at number 3, we have the epic end of Season 2, Katara and Aang versus Zuko and Azula in the Ba Sing Se Palace Cavern setting. Zuko, at first, took the side of Katara and Aang, but then when push came to shove, he ended up taking Azula's side. This is an intense battle. It's epic, it's visually dazzling, but also it's tragic because Aang, we also learned, they set it up, Aang learned that if he's in the Avatar state and he dies, that will end the Avatar's existence forever. And so, like when that's told to us, he's going to be faced with a near-death incident sometime soon. And Azula nearly kills him with a lightning strike when he is in the Avatar state. For a moment, you think he's going to die, but then Katara, she revealed she had that special healing water around her necklace, uses that to save Aang's life. But it was a very tragic moment. It was like really tough to watch Aang suffer like that. It was really difficult.
Yeah, that was I think just what a great finale fight. I think it's just so cool how where they took things and how they ended it off. The struggle with Zuko and his family and what's right, and then not only that, that's when just that at that point Iroh has left it in Zuko's hands to make the decisions, because he's at an age to where he needs to make these decisions himself. He can't, if he's needing to constantly be told what's the right thing to do, then he clearly isn't the person that Iroh thinks he is. Yeah. And so Iroh leaves it to him to make those decisions, and then but he's still there ready to help. And so once Aang gets hit by the lightning and Katara catches him, he shows up immediately, and it's honestly, one of the first moments I think, besides the season 1 finale, that we get to see him in action. We're like, he just pops up, this old dude who's fighting these soldiers in their prime, and he's like, you got to get out of here. I'll hold him off as long as I can, and is just punching at them and shooting quick shots of fire, not even doing anything fancy with his fire bending. So he's doing the basics and is holding off like this whole squad of firebenders and their army. So I think it's just a cool amalgamation of like just a bunch of different characters having big character moments.
100%.
Really fun time.
Great sequence. All right, at number 2, I know this is ultimately, for the most part, the fan favorite fight. I do prefer one over this one. I'm not sure what you think, but Katara and Zuko versus Zula during the finale. Unbelievable. Visually, just an incredible feast of visuals. Stunning, epic, just very exciting battle, which is taking place at the same time as Aang versus Ozai. It's just an incredible sequence, and the whole show led up to this fight in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think this fight means the most to people, which is why it's a lot of people's favorite, because it's the most, like, I guess, emotionally significant of all the characters, because it's the amalgamation of Katara, Zuko, and Azula's characters.
Yeah,
and this is the way that they have planned out this whole sequence, where there's no sound effects except for the fire, there's just the light music in the background, and then the sound of the fire, which is such a awesome stylistic way to go about this, to where it gives the whole fight a lot more weight to it, to where there's no posturing. There's not a whole lot of dialogue. This is the finale of this rivalry between the two siblings, and what it means for either one to win or lose, and the weight that has on the rest of the world. So I love the way that they've shot this, the way that the colors are set up, the way it ends with Katara showing that she's just as capable as Zuko. And so when Zuko saves her, they're not like invalidating her skill as a fighter or invalidating his skill as a fighter. He's so good. He's winning against Azula, and Azula has to use cheap tactics to try and win, which is targeting Katara with lightning, and it's lightning. It moves so fast that the only thing Zuko could do was just jump in front of it. So just everything in this fight is so meticulous and important and well thought out. I think it's probably my favorite fight, but this one's really close with the number 1.
Yeah. I mean, number 1 for me, Aang versus Ozai. It's just unbelievable to see the scale of it, the creativity with the settings. They're traveling all over the place, and Aang really does struggle, and we've seen so many strong firebenders, but Ozai really is in a league of his own, even amongst the other masters that we've seen. He's so immensely powerful, and he's really having Aang struggle to compete. It's just incredible. And then when he goes into the Avatar state, and we see that he has completely mastered all 4 elements at the same time, and it's that great shot of it starts close and then it pulls back, and he's shooting out flames. Rocks are spinning in the air, and water as well. It's just all 4 elements in sync together. It's just unbelievable. And then obviously ending with him defeating the Fire Lord, giving him a chance to stop, and the Fire Lord saying basically he's never going to stop fighting, and so then he takes away his bending. There's so many elements to this story of this battle sequence that are just the whole show led up to this, and it was just an incredible way to finish the series. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, it's definitely the most badass fight in the series.
I was like, let's go!
Yeah, like when Aang hits his back on the rock, and he grabs his beard and pulls him down to his face. I jumped out of my seat. I'm like, yes,
his eyes are lit up.
I got so excited. I'm like, yes, kick his ass, do it.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's why the conflict of the fight was so strong, because he couldn't get into the Avatar state at first.
He was locked
that's
out
what
of
made
it.
it so difficult.
And I love how Aang gains a different understanding of the Avatar state. I think after he meets Guru, because he never like he thinks he has to let go for him to be the Avatar and control the Avatar state willingly, but you find out he doesn't necessarily need to do that. He needs to in actuality, the conflict isn't his attachment to people. His conflict is his own his own ideals versus the expectations everyone else has set for him, and he's conflicted on what he should do all the time, on what the world expects from him versus what he thinks is the right thing, and he's kind of come to terms with that by the time we get to there. And so once that Chi path is unblocked, he's able to do whatever he wants. And I that's also just one of the coolest moments where he has Ozai pinned, and it's the voices of all the avatars at once. And it's like, Ozai, you've devastated the balance of this world. So now you'll pay the ultimate price. I was like, this is so cool. But I still love how it finalizes with he's now able to willingly end the Avatar state on his own and just take Ozai out solo, because he's that's all he really needs. Just what a fantastic finale.
Yeah, man, I loved it. It was so goddamn good. It was so satisfying.
It really was.
All right, so we have a couple more lists that we'll breeze through because we're over 2 hours now.
Yeah.
So I made a list of the funniest moments. These are just great bits. So the Secret Tunnel Nomads and their song, just hilarious. I love them. And then the line Zuko here, after over on the Western Temple, we should just mention the Avatar theater play in the Fire Nation is a lot of fun. I love the actors. I love the costumes.
Toph,
the giant guy playing Toph,
the
so
giant
funny,
dude. Oh my god, so funny.
And then the girl playing Aang with all the makeup on, super funny.
Yeah.
And then we have Aang running on water to escape that sea monster. That cracked me up. It was so funny.
Yeah.
And then Zuko and Sokka, my girlfriend turned to the moon. That's rough, buddy. Just like it's a casual thing. Yeah,
gets me
rough.
every time. It's just the way he says that. That's rough, buddy.
And then when the gang is disguised in the Fire Nation, and Aang not only goes to school, but he throws a party with the Fire Nation kids. Oh. Everyone's like, "What are you doing?" But it's important.
Like,
he's showing them that they're just kids. They're just kids. There's multiple moments with the Cabbage Man who keeps having his cart destroyed by destruction happening around him. Sokka trying to come up with the name for the Combustion Man and starting out with Sparky Boom Man and then ending on Combustion Man. Hilarious. So Sokka has by far the two funniest bits. So there's a moment when I think it's Katara is looking for someone. She opens a tent and she finds Sokka lying on the ground with candles and a rose in his mouth waiting for Suki. He's got like his feet up. It's so funny.
Great.
It's so goddamn funny. And then I think the funniest moment is Sokka tripping out on cactus juice high as a kite. High as a kite.
The line he says is so funny too. It's like cactus juice, it'll quench ya. It's the quenchiest. As he's just seeing the most insane shit.
So funny. That's great. The fact that they put it in a kid's show is amazing. I love it.
I know. I'm like, this man is tripping.
Ain't no way that's going to be the live action on Netflix. I guarantee it won't be.
Yeah. It's actually, what's so funny? You mentioned the live action. So, guess who's playing the Cabbage Man in the live action?
Who?
The original actor.
That's great.
They got him for the live action. I was so excited when I heard that.
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
Listen, I might just watch it for him.
Just watch his sequences together.
He finally aged into being able to look like the character now, so he can play him in live action.
That's great. All right, now I have a list of the 20 best episodes. I'll just burn through these, and a couple of them are just amalgamations because the Sozin's Common is a 4-parter, and it's like they're all like the best episodes. So I put them as one thing. So we have number 20, the Southern Air Temple, which is where Aang discovers that his people were wiped out. Very important early episode in the show. I think it's episode 2. Then at 19, we have the library with the giant owl keeping watch. This is where they learn about the comet and its impending moment. Great episode. I thought it was so cool. Visually
that was
so fun.
I think it's a really underrated episode.
Yeah.
I think the library is so interesting.
I didn't see it on any list online, but I was like, I loved that episode. It was great. It was very dangerous too, and
the danger and lore around that place is just so fascinating.
Yeah. Then we have 18, The Tales of Ba Sing Se. It's the day in the life of every character in Ba Sing Se, and we learn Iroh's backstory. Very tragic. Number 17, The Warriors of the Kyoshi. This is where we meet Suki and her gang, and it's very funny, but also very educational for Sokka. At number 16, The Guru, where Aang learns much more about the Avatar history and state from the Guru in the spiritual realm. Number 15, The Drill. This is when the Fire Nation is trying to drill through the wall, and like we mentioned earlier, Azula and Aang have that epic battle atop the drill. Number 14, we have The Blind Bandit, which is Toph's introduction in Season 2, which is such a fun, visually stunning episode. 13, The Storm, which is where Aang learns about his past. Zuko also has a great transformative moment in this episode as well. Number 12, The Puppet Master. This is Hama's episode, where we learn about bloodbending. I am a big horror fan, so this episode really stuck out at me as being really fun and visually stunning, and just a nice change of pace from any other episode in the entire series. Like, there's nothing like this episode. Number 11, we have The Blue Spirit, when Zuko helps Aang escape, and we get to see the first instance of his alter ego, which is so fun. At number 10, The Day of the Black Sun. So this is when Zuko fights Ozai, and then also the Fire Nation knew that they were coming. The gang shows up in the temple thinking they're about to fight Ozai, but only Azula's there. And she actually does put up a great fight without being able to firebend. At number 9, we have Boiling Rock, which is a 2-parter. It's basically a prison break. Super fun. We learn a lot more about the characters, and also this is where May and Ty Lee betray Azula and join the Avatar team. At number 8, we have the Firebending Masters, which is where Zuko and Aang go on their little adventure and learn the Dragon Dance from the Firebending Masters. Next up, we have I put Boiling Rock twice. Skipping on, moving on to number 6, Zuko Alone. This is Zuko's solo episode, which is so Western in vibe, and I'm a big Western fan, so this episode was just like really so fun to see. Number 5, Avatar and the Fire Lord. This is where we learn Roku's story 100 years ago with Sozin. Number 4, The Siege of the North Part 1. Epic confrontation and the penultimate episode of the first season. Next up at number 3, The Crossroads of Destiny, where it's Azula versus everyone. And it's the end of season 2. And Zuko betrays Aang and Katara after initially joining up with him. Next up, we have The Siege in the North Part 2, which is the finale of season 1, which I thought was just a phenomenal conclusion for the first season. And then at number 1, I have the entirety of Sozin's Comet, because all 4 episodes are so fantastic that they would just dominate the list. And ultimately, it's just like one big sequence. So I put it as 1, and it's hard to pull off a great ending, an ending as perfect as they did with Avatar: Last Airbender, but they did it with this.
It absolutely is one of the best endings I've seen in a series. Like I can't really think of too many that match it.
Agreed. And it's just, I'm so glad I watched the show. Final thoughts is it's one of my favorite TV series of all time. It's one of my favorite animated shows of all time now. And I know it's not strictly an anime, but anime inspired. It's just, I love it. I know that the live action won't come close to it. We'll see what they do, but I had an absolute blast watching this series.
Absolutely. It's one of those shows that manages to be fun. It manages to explore deeper parts of human society and morality, and also just manages to deliver just some amazing animation, especially for the time. American animation didn't really this was like one of the first big shows to like outsource to an Asian country for animation. So while a lot of the primary animation for Avatar might have been done in the US, so like the keyframes and storyboards storyboards is all done there. The majority of it is done in Korea. So this is I think this show, like, just in terms of the visuals has very few rivals in terms of just the visual depictions of everything, storytelling, animation, just everything involved.
Yeah. Absolutely fantastic show. Thanks to everybody for tuning into this episode of Raiders of the Lost podcast. Stay tuned for more episodes. Join our Patreon for access to bonus ad-free episodes. We love you all for supporting us. Thanks so much, Jacob, for joining and bringing your expertise this week to our episodes on Avatar: Last Airbender and Attack on Titan on Monday. Stay tuned, everybody, for upcoming episodes. See you next time.